You know, if you're a new pool owner, you probably have a lot of questions about the chemistry of your pool. It's not too hard, it's just something you got to do every week. A real easy way to manage a healthy pool is just to hire a maintenance service. Once you factor in all the chemical costs and the actual work you got to do, for some people that's a great alternative to ensure you have a properly balanced pool. Whether you do maintenance or you're a hardcore DIYer like I am, it's still important to understand what chemicals are going into your pool, what each of the ratings actually mean, and what you can do to make sure that your pool is a healthy environment for your family to swim in. So in order to do that, you're gonna wanna get yourself a testing kit, and what I have is the Taylor K2006. Inside the box, you've got all the testing kit you need, a resource booklet to help you determine what your testing results mean, and then little helpful charts that actually adjust your testing profile depending on temperature and your pool settings. So we're gonna go through this real quick and I will show you everything you need to know. One really helpful thing is this chart right up here. This is probably the thing I use the most. It goes over all the different testing protocols, and then on the back side, got this cheat sheet that helps you understand what settings you should have for each of your tests. Okay, for me, I always like to start with the pH balance. pH is basically the acidity or the base level of your pool, and you want to have an acidity level between 7.2 and 7.6. Now, I have a salt pool, so one of my biggest problems is keeping that acid level down. But it's a real simple test. On the side of the pool, you just basically rinse this little thing out for a bit, and then you're gonna basically fill it up to the 0.25 meter mark. And then using the first tester, I'm gonna use R004, which is basically a pH indicator solution. And this is almost universal. Inside each of the pool kits I've ever used, it's always been 5 drops of this to the 25 milliliter sample. So we'll just go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add the cap on there. We shake it up really good, and you see I am way high in my pH balance. So the next step is, how much pH do I need? We're gonna go on to the pH demand test. So like I said, this is currently way over 8 on the old scale here. So we're gonna go ahead and use the R05 acid demand. And the way it works, and by the way, you don't have to remember all this. It's all inside the lid here. It gives you exact instructions, so step by step. So it says here, acid demand, we're gonna add R05, and we wanna add drip by drip, swirling it back and forth until it matches between 7.4 and 7.6. So here we go, 1, 2, you're starting to see a little bit of color change there. 3, not quite, almost. And we are at, 3. So looking at that, that's about 3 drops. So what you do is you get in your book, and in the pool and spa chemistry book that comes with these Taylor kits, you go back to the amount of acid demand, and it basically says here to decrease muriatic acid decrease pH using muriatic acid. I go to the size of my pool. I have a 39,000, so it's going to be closer to the 50,000 gallon. I have 3 drops, so it's basically telling me to add a gallon of acid to my pool. And so when adding acids, you definitely don't want to put it all in one place. You just kind of want to spread this out. And this stuff is extremely harmful to your bare skin, so you want to be careful not to splash it. It'll burn you pretty good. But you just go ahead and pour an entire, for me this time, an entire gallon of this has to go into the pool. And partly that's because of the salt always eats up my acid. And then the other piece is we've been getting a lot of rain lately. A little helpful hint, when I am done with one of these, I usually just let some pool water go in it, swirl it around to get all the residual acid out of there, and dump it back in the pool. Okay, so next up is chlorine. Chlorine, you want to make sure is added in your pool. It's what sanitizes all the water, gets all the bacteria and algae and all that, stops it from growing. And in a good pool, you want about 2 parts per million chlorine, free chlorine in your pool. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up to the 25 milliliter level. And that means every drop that when we go to test how much is in there is equal to a 1/4 part per million. So first thing you do, you got it at the 25. Then I'm going to add 2 scoops of this reagent in there, this DPD reagent, or agent rather. I'm going to pour that in there. And then we're going to mix it up really good. And you can see it kind of turns pink, which tells me that there's chlorine in the pool. But there isn't a heck of a lot of chlorine in the pool. It's kind of low, but let's see how low it is. So next up, we're going to take this 871 reagent and we're going to pour it in. And for every drop, it's a 1/4 point per million or 0.22 parts per million. So 1, swirl it, starts to turn clear. It's almost there, still a little pinkish. 2, and we are clear. So basically I got about half as much chlorine in here as I want to, so I need to go on my app for the Hayward system I have and turn up my chlorine generator. All right, with 2 drops of R871, we know that we have times 0.5, we have 1 part per million, but now we need to figure out how much combined chlorine is in the pool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to 871, or excuse me, we're going to go back to R003 and we're going to add 5 drops. We're basically going to see if we get a reaction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we're looking for is any kind of pink color, and we don't really have any. We got a slight, maybe slightly pink. And so that means we got a little bit of combined chlorine in there. And how we can tell for sure how much combined chlorine in there, we use this R008, or excuse me, we use the R006 is for how much base you need. This is a pH thing, got them mixed up. But we're gonna go back to the R0871 and see if we can eliminate that pink and how much we have. So if we do 1 drop, it should do it. And sure enough, it goes clear. As you can see there, it's clear again. So what it's telling us is 0.5 parts per million combined chlorine. We got 1 part per million regular chlorine. So we definitely need to turn up our salt generator and see if that solves our problem. Okay, so next up is alkalinity. Alkalinity basically is kind of like a buffering agent for your pH balance. And if you don't have enough alkalinity in your pool, your pH is constantly going to go up and down, more so than I even experience. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill our big bucket with water up to the 25 meter mark. And then we're going to add 2 drops of 007 thin sulfate. 1, 2. And then we're going to swirl that around to mix. And then we're going to add 5 drops of the R008, which is going to tell us how much alkalinity we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go ahead and mix that up. And what you're left with is kind of this green color, right? And so what you're gonna end up doing is we're gonna add 0.9 until the green turns red. And then we'll multiply it by 10. So 0.9 is sulfuric acid. And we're gonna add in here 1, nothing. There's a 2. You're seeing a little bit at the top, but it goes back to green. 3, a little bit, goes back to green. 4, 5, starting to turn, but it still goes back to green. 6, 7, there it goes. It's going pink, and then back to green. 8, starting to, will it stay? No, back to kind of a really light green. 9, starting to, and we're there. We're at 9. So 9, and then you multiply it by 10, and that's really that's where you want to be. That's well, that's 90. If I add one more drop at 10, I get a solid red color, as you can see right there. What that means is I have between 90 and 100 alkaline. And if we look at our little cheat chart back here, you see that alkalinity, they want us between 80 and 120. So we're doing pretty good on alkalinity. If we had to add alkalinity, it's just soda powder, baking powder, baking soda that will actually bring up the alkalinity and provide a little stability. If you don't have good alkalinity, your acid's gonna just be all over the place. So keep your alkalinity up. So the next things we're going to test is calcium hardness, or hardness of your water. If you live in a really hard water area, this is going to be something you need to manage. Or conversely, I live in the country, I am on well water. We actually had to raise our calcium hardness in order to protect the pool plaster. But you want a nice, even calcium presence in your water. And so the first thing you do is you fill it up to 25, and then you're going to put this calcium buffer in there. Or I'm sorry, oops, wrong one. Holy crap. We're on the blue caps. Calcium buffer. We're going to put the calcium buffer in there, and this takes 20 drops of this, so you got to kind of use a lot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so next thing you want to do is you want to mix this up. Good and mixed. And then you're going to use the R111 calcium indicator liquid, and we're going to drop 5 of these in here. And just like the pH one, once we drop this blue liquid in here, it should turn red if calcium is present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and so mix that up, and you got a pinkish color there. And then we add the hardness regenerator, and basically we're going to count how many of these we put in there and swirling it until it turns from red to blue. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, Jesus. 1, 2, 3. I'm at 23 now. 24, 25. All right, we're at 25. And as you can see, it's actually kind of a bluish purple. And the reason my water is purple instead of blue is because I have some heavy metals in here from the well. Iron being the biggest one, manganese being another one. And I use this agent called a metal sequestrant to try to get some of that stuff out. But it's not too bad. But at 20, you multiply the number that you got, 25, by 4, and that means I have 100. And so looking on the back here, calcium hardness, you want it between, for gunite pools. So I went in 25 times, oh no, I'm sorry. I went in 25 and I'm going to multiply that by 10, not by 4. So that's 250. And for calcium pools, or calcium in a gunite pool, it says here I want between 200 and 400. So I'm perfecto on that. And I imagine in the future I'm going to actually have to add some more calcium to this pool because we keep filling it with regular pool. All right, so what's up next is cyanuric acid, or cyanuric acid, however you pronounce it, CYA. And what that is it's kind of like chlorine buffer, and it preserves the chlorine in your water. And if it's too low, you're going to need to add some more to your pool. I usually add about twice a season. I have to add this stuff to it. So I'm about halfway through the season. I'm going to check again. So I fill this to the 7th mark, and then with the R13, I end up putting in another 7 milliliters to get it up to the 14. And then what you do is you just kind of shake this up. Oops. Or you put the cap on, that would be helpful. You put the cap on and you mix it up. And what's going to happen is this stuff's going to go real cloudy on you after about 30 seconds. So we'll let that sit for 30 seconds. Now this is where it gets kind of interesting, because you gotta fill it. And if you see in this small bottom, there's a dot at the bottom of the beaker there, and all you do is you're filling this up until you can't see the circle anymore. So we're going to put it in there, and you can see it's starting to fade away. Still see it a little bit, still see it. Not right about there. It kind of disappears. And then what you do is you take a reading off the front. Where is it sitting from a reading standpoint? And it says I'm right at 60 CYA. And if we look at our chart for cyanuric acid, we want between 30 and 60. So we're a little bit high, but I'm comfortable with that. If it was way too high, what's going to happen is it's going to actually stop your chlorine from working. So 60 is a bit high, but I'm okay with that. We're going to keep it right at there. The only way you can get rid of cyanuric acid is to actually drain the pool. It never goes away. So once you have a good rating on it, you generally don't have to add too much on it. You just got to check it, especially if you're getting a lot of rain. And then you may have to add some more. All right, and then the last thing that you really have is, sodium chloride tests. You can test that through a test, but a lot of the pool systems that you have, like I have the Hayward one, actually tell you how much parts per million salt you have and whether you need to add it. And then the only other thing I want to share with you is if you have CYA and you use the granules to add it, it tells you to mix it in a bucket and do all that. You don't need to do that. You can throw it right into your skimmer basket and let it do a skimmer shock application, and it'll pull the CYA in and just add it to the pool water gently. But please make sure you're only adding what you need, because if you have too much, you can block out the actual chlorine that's being used and stop your chlorine from being effective. All right, so that's pretty much it for pool chemistry. It's not too hard. It's just something you got to do every week. You got to get in the habit of doing it. I come out after I mow the lawn and all that. I check my pool chemicals, brush the pool and whatnot. If you've got any tips, tricks, or suggestions, please put them down in the comment. Please subscribe, because we're almost there, and we'll be dropping out some more content real quick here, so you don't want to miss that. Until then, I'm Scott at Texas DIY Coach, and I'll see you later.